Across the sweep of human history, civilizations have risen and vanished, leaving behind whispers of grandeur and mystery. From towering temples to hidden cities, the traces of these societies speak of ingenuity, ambition, and resilience, yet many details remain unknowable. Some of their achievements were monumental, like the intricate urban layouts of long-lost cities, while others were subtle, embedded in art, ritual, and daily life. The tension between what we can see and what remains hidden invites a quiet curiosity, a sense of wandering through the shadows of the past. These civilizations often thrived in harmony with their environment, shaping it carefully while being shaped by it in return, yet time and circumstance ultimately altered their course. In this documentary, we journey across continents and millennia, exploring places where stone, earth, and memory intersect. Here, light meets shadow, known encounters unknown, and every discovery leads to deeper questions. Our path is not merely through history, but through imagination, reflection, and the persistent allure of the unsolved. The mysteries of these lost civilizations are not only historical puzzles, but invitations to meditate on human ingenuity, impermanence, and the fragile beauty of existence. The Nabateans, builders of Petra, offer one of the most striking examples of human ingenuity in the desert. Carved into sandstone cliffs, their city blends seamlessly with the surrounding landscape, a harmony of natural wonder and human skill. Water management, trade routes, and urban planning reveal a society that mastered both survival and aesthetics in a harsh environment. Yet Petra's exact rise and decline remain shrouded in uncertainty, leaving historians to piece together fragments of inscriptions and archaeology. These contrasts, monumental achievement versus mysterious disappearance, fuel a quiet fascination. Exploring Petra is not just a physical journey, but a meditation on ingenuity, resilience, and the ephemeral nature of human endeavor. The city's silent corridors and intricate facades invite the imagination to fill in stories of markets, ceremonies, and daily life, bridging the gap between past and present. In this balance of clarity and mystery, one senses the patterns of human aspiration, the impermanence of civilizations, and the enduring echoes they leave behind. Half a world away, the temples of Angkor rise from the Cambodian jungle, a testament to ingenuity and devotion. Built over centuries, these structures reveal sophisticated engineering, water management, and a profound spiritual vision. Canals, reservoirs, and temple layouts demonstrate a civilization attuned to both environmental and celestial rhythms. Yet much of Angkor's history is obscured by time. Why some cities declined, how populations were sustained, and the full scope of religious practices remain partially unknown. This tension between knowledge and mystery encourages a contemplative pace, allowing the imagination to wander amid moss-covered stones and silent corridors. Angkor's grandeur is a reminder that human achievement is always intertwined with uncertainty, and that beauty often emerges alongside enigma. As we trace the paths of these temples, we encounter the same themes seen elsewhere: resilience, ingenuity, impermanence, and the persistent allure of what remains unsolved. The story of Angkor invites reflection not only on architecture and engineering, but on the human desire to leave a mark on the world, even in the face of time's quiet, unyielding passage. As we move beyond the forces of nature, another layer of mystery emerges in the ingenuity of lost civilizations, the knowledge and technologies they mastered, many of which continue to baffle modern science. Across deserts, mountains, and river valleys, these societies left behind feats of engineering and craftsmanship that seem, at times, almost impossibly advanced. From the precise cutting of stones that fit together without mortar, to water systems that rival modern plumbing, to architectural alignments that correspond perfectly with celestial bodies, these creations hint at a depth of understanding that has been partially lost to history. The contrast is compelling. We, in the age of modern technology, can marvel at structures built thousands of years ago, yet remain uncertain about how they were achieved with the tools and resources available at the time. There is an almost hypnotic quality to this mystery, a blend of admiration and curiosity that draws us deeper into the past. In the highlands of South America, the ancient city of Machu Picchu presents a stunning example of architectural brilliance. Carved into steep mountainsides and surrounded by clouds that drift slowly across terraced slopes, the city exhibits precise stonework and sophisticated water management systems. Stones weighing several tons fit together with such exactness that even a knife blade cannot be inserted between them. Modern engineers and architects struggle to replicate these techniques without the aid of contemporary machinery. Every terrace, every canal, and every wall seems purposeful, designed to withstand both the test of time and the elements. Yet, despite centuries of study, many aspects of construction, including the methods used to move and place massive stones, remain uncertain. The city's enduring elegance is a silent testament to human ingenuity, inviting contemplation of what knowledge has been lost and what wisdom was understood intuitively by those long gone. Even more mysterious is Puma Punku, near Tiwanaku in Bolivia. Here, enormous blocks of stone, some weighing more than 100 tons, lie in precise geometric arrangements that defy easy explanation. The accuracy of their cuts, angles, and interlocking joints challenges assumptions about ancient tools and techniques. How did a civilization, without iron tools or machinery, achieve such perfection? How were the stones transported over difficult terrain? Scholars offer theories ranging from clever engineering methods to now-lost technologies. Yet the full truth remains elusive. The site, partially destroyed over time, retains an air of quiet grandeur, as though its builders intended both utility and a subtle, enduring enigma. Standing before these blocks, one is reminded that human creativity often surpasses our expectations, and that the echoes of forgotten expertise linger long after the civilizations themselves have vanished. In ancient Egypt, the construction of the pyramids presents a similar puzzle. The Great Pyramid of Giza, aligned with astonishing precision to the cardinal points, demonstrates knowledge of mathematics, astronomy, and engineering that continues to inspire awe. Tens of thousands of workers would have been required to transport, lift, and position immense stones, yet the exact methods remain debated. Some theories suggest ramps of extraordinary length, while others propose levers or water-based techniques. The mysteries extend beyond construction to purpose. While pyramids are tombs, their precise alignments, internal chambers, and intricate passageways hint at deeper, possibly spiritual or astronomical significance. The careful balance between monumental scale and intricate detail exemplifies the ingenuity of a civilization that understood both the material and conceptual dimensions of building in ways that still resonate today. Lost technologies were not limited to construction. Ancient societies developed sophisticated systems of water management, agriculture, and metallurgy that rival or surpass modern techniques in subtle ways. The aqueducts of Rome, the qanats of Persia, and the irrigation channels of the Indus Valley demonstrate an intimate understanding of hydraulics and sustainable urban planning. Even in small, seemingly mundane artifacts, such as tools, jewelry, and containers, there is evidence of craftsmanship that combines practicality with artistic expression. These creations reflect societies deeply attuned to their environment, capable of bending natural resources to their will while maintaining a delicate balance with the land. Yet, in many cases, the reasoning behind specific design choices remains unknown, leaving modern observers to marvel at a combination of intuition, trial and error, and knowledge lost to the sands of time. Some of the most tantalizing mysteries lie in objects and structures whose purpose is still debated. Consider the Antikythera mechanism, an ancient Greek device that functions as a complex astronomical calculator. Discovered in a shipwreck off the coast of Antikythera, it demonstrates mechanical sophistication thought impossible for its era. Gears, dials, and inscriptions suggest an understanding of celestial cycles far beyond what historians previously assumed. How such knowledge was conceived and why it seemingly disappeared for centuries remains a compelling enigma. It is a reminder that lost civilizations were not merely surviving. They were observing, calculating, and understanding the universe in ways that modern science sometimes struggles to replicate. The precision and artistry of these technologies provoke a sense of quiet reverence. They invite us to consider not only what civilizations could do, but also what they understood about the world and their place within it. Each stone, each tool, each artifact is a whisper from the past, hinting at expertise and insight that may never be fully grasped. They evoke a sense of humility, a recognition that human ingenuity has always been capable of astonishing feats, and that some knowledge, once widespread, may vanish entirely with the passage of time. It is this tension between the achievable and the unknowable that fuels both scientific inquiry and imagination, keeping the mysteries of lost civilizations alive in our minds. In reflecting on these marvels, we are drawn to a broader meditation on the nature of knowledge itself. What is remembered, what is forgotten, and what remains perpetually hidden? Lost technologies and engineering feats are more than evidence of past accomplishment. They are reminders of human curiosity, creativity, and the impermanence of understanding. They challenge our assumptions about progress and continuity, showing that innovation can arise, flourish, and disappear in cycles as complex as civilization itself. By studying these feats, we gain glimpses of a world both familiar and profoundly alien, a world in which human potential was often greater than we had imagined, yet always subject to the whims of time and circumstance. Ultimately, the marvels of lost technologies offer a gentle invitation to reflect, imagine, and dream. As the mind traces the terraces of Machu Picchu, the massive stones of Puma Punku, or the intricate dials of the Antikythera mechanism, it is drawn into a meditative space between curiosity and wonder. These creations, both monumental and subtle, connect us to a continuum of human endeavor, revealing that even in disappearance, civilizations leave traces of brilliance, and that the mysteries of human ingenuity remain as captivating today as they were thousands of years ago. In contemplating these wonders, the listener drifts slowly through thought and imagination, carrying the quiet awe of a past civilization's knowledge and mastery, and settling into the gentle rhythm of discovery. As human civilizations advanced, their curiosity extended beyond the earth, turning skyward to the stars that silently watched over them. Astronomy and the observation of celestial cycles became a cornerstone of culture, religion, and daily life, guiding not only agriculture and navigation, but also the rhythm of festivals and spiritual practices. Across continents and millennia, lost civilizations demonstrated a remarkable understanding of the heavens, mapping the stars with precision that continues to astonish modern scientists. The contrast between our current knowledge and the sophistication of ancient skywatchers invites quiet reflection. How did they track the movements of celestial bodies without telescopes or modern instruments? What did these observations mean to them, and why did they embed this knowledge into monuments and rituals that endure in fragmentary form today? In the deserts of southern Egypt, the alignment of the Nabta Playa stone circles reveals a civilization deeply attuned to astronomical phenomena. These ancient megaliths, dating back thousands of years, appear to mark the solstices and equinoxes, creating a calendar etched into stone. The precision with which the stones are placed suggests an understanding of the solar cycles, the movement of constellations, and perhaps even the subtle variations of time over centuries. While the full purpose remains uncertain, the site evokes an intimate connection between humans and the cosmos, a reverence for patterns beyond the reach of daily perception. Standing in imagination amid these stones, one senses not only the technical knowledge of the builders, but also the quiet wonder they must have felt when gazing upward at a night sky unpolluted by artificial light. Stonehenge in England offers another remarkable example of ancient astronomical knowledge. The massive sarsen stones, carefully arranged on the Salisbury Plain, align with the midsummer sunrise and the midwinter sunset. The significance of this alignment goes beyond mere practicality, suggesting a spiritual or ceremonial dimension that tied human activity to the movement of the heavens. Archaeologists and astronomers continue to study Stonehenge, uncovering subtle nuances in alignment and positioning that indicate a sophisticated understanding of the lunar and solar cycles. The precision of such constructions stands in contrast to the primitive tools likely used to create them, underscoring a blend of ingenuity, observation, and cultural reverence that remains difficult to fully comprehend. In Central and South America, lost civilizations also left enduring celestial legacies. The Maya, for instance, integrated astronomical observation into both architecture and calendar systems. Their temples, pyramids, and observatories were aligned with solstices, equinoxes, and the appearances of Venus, which held profound spiritual and practical significance. The Maya calendar, complex and precise, recorded cycles of time far longer than the human lifespan, reflecting an understanding of celestial rhythms that was both mathematical and deeply philosophical. By studying these alignments, modern researchers gain insights into how the Maya perceived their place in the universe, how they structured their societies, and how they intertwined observation with ritual. Yet, much of their cosmology remains shrouded in mystery, preserved only in fragments of codices, inscriptions, and the silent stone monuments scattered across jungle landscapes. The skies were not only a canvas for tracking time, but also a medium through which ancient peoples encoded meaning. Constellations, planetary movements, and eclipses were often interpreted as messages from gods or signs of coming events. Temples, observatories, and ceremonial grounds became instruments for understanding the cosmos, blending science with spirituality in a way that modern minds find both elegant and enigmatic. These structures and observations reveal civilizations attuned to natural rhythms, able to translate the infinite complexity of the heavens into tools for agriculture, navigation, and the organization of society. The interplay between observation and interpretation reflects a nuanced worldview, one that marries fact with meaning, utility with awe, and measurement with mystery. The precision of these ancient astronomers raises questions that continue to intrigue modern scientists. How did they achieve such accuracy without telescopes, compasses, or modern mathematics? How were these observations transmitted across generations with enough fidelity to guide monumental constructions? The answers remain speculative, a combination of careful observation, oral tradition, and perhaps techniques now lost to time. The mystery lies not only in the technical achievement, but also in the underlying understanding of the universe these civilizations must have possessed. Their knowledge was practical yet profound, offering both tools for survival and a framework for understanding the cosmos in ways that continue to captivate today. Even in more remote locations, evidence of celestial awareness can be found. Ancient North American cultures created petroglyphs and alignments in mounds that correspond to the movements of the moon and sun. Across the Pacific, Polynesian navigators tracked stars with astonishing accuracy, guiding long voyages between islands. While some of these practices survived, others faded with the disappearance of the civilizations that first observed them, leaving behind traces that challenge modern interpretation. Each site, each artifact, each alignment is a window into a human mind that looked upward with curiosity and respect, seeking to understand patterns beyond the tangible world. The haunting beauty of these skyward endeavors lies in their dual nature. They are both scientific and poetic, empirical and spiritual. They demonstrate a meticulous understanding of natural patterns while evoking wonder at the universe itself. Ancient astronomers were observers, mathematicians, and philosophers, yet they also carried a sense of reverence, sensing that the heavens were alive with meaning. The remnants of their work, standing silent under modern skies, invite us to join in contemplation, to drift in imagination alongside their ancestors as they marked solstices, predicted eclipses, and charted the stars. In reflecting on these celestial achievements, we sense the broader human impulse to seek knowledge beyond immediate necessity. Astronomy was not merely utilitarian. It was a dialogue with the cosmos, an attempt to connect human life to something vast and enduring. Lost civilizations, through their alignment of stones, pyramids, and observatories, demonstrate that this curiosity is timeless, stretching across continents and epochs. They remind us that knowledge is often fragile, passed down in whispers and stone, and that the full scope of human understanding may forever remain just out of reach. Yet in these fragments, in these alignments and observatories, there is a quiet invitation to observe, to wonder, and to participate in the eternal human quest to understand the cosmos. The night sky then becomes a bridge between the past and present. As we imagine ancient people gazing at the stars, aligning structures, and recording celestial patterns, we enter a meditative state that connects observation with imagination. The mind drifts across time and space, considering both what was known and what remains unknowable. This is the essence of the mysteries of lost civilizations, the interplay between human ingenuity and the vast, silent universe, a rhythm that encourages contemplation, curiosity, and a gentle sense of awe. Through these celestial traces, we are invited to float alongside history, to imagine the stars as guides and companions, and to settle into the slow, enduring wonder that ancient astronomers themselves must have felt night after night, century after century. Language is one of the most intimate expressions of a civilization, a vessel for culture, thought, and memory. Yet, in many cases, the languages of lost societies have slipped through our fingers like sand, leaving only tantalizing fragments to hint at the thoughts and stories they once conveyed. Undeciphered scripts, mysterious symbols, and enigmatic inscriptions form a quiet labyrinth for modern researchers, a puzzle where each fragment is both a clue and a reminder of what has been irretrievably lost. The contrast between the existence of these writings and our inability to fully understand them creates a subtle tension, inviting curiosity and imagination. We can glimpse the structures and patterns of their expression, but the true meaning, the emotions, ideas, and knowledge embedded within, remain shrouded in silence. The Indus Valley script, found on clay tablets, seals, and pottery, is one of the most famous examples of this enigma. Archaeologists have discovered thousands of symbols, often arranged in short sequences, yet despite decades of study, the script has not been conclusively deciphered. The brevity of most inscriptions, combined with the absence of a known bilingual text like the Rosetta Stone, has made translation extraordinarily difficult. Scholars have proposed numerous theories, ranging from accounting records to religious texts, but no consensus exists. The symbols themselves are intricate, suggesting a society that valued precision and communication, and yet the full scope of their thought and language remains locked away, like a song whose melody we can hear faintly but cannot reproduce. Similarly, the Rongorongo script of Easter Island remains a haunting mystery. Carved into wooden tablets, the symbols exhibit a repeating pattern and artistic elegance that indicate a sophisticated writing system. Yet, no Rosetta Stone exists for Rongorongo, and the original context in which it was used has largely disappeared due to cultural disruption and population collapse. Researchers have tried to decode the inscriptions, examining patterns, repetitions, and possible correlations with known Polynesian languages, but the meaning remains elusive. The very act of trying to read these symbols evokes a sense of quiet wonder, as if the language itself is a whisper from a vanished civilization, inviting us to listen closely while withholding its secrets. Even within more familiar civilizations, scripts can hold surprising complexity and subtlety that challenge modern understanding. Linear A, the writing system of Minoan Crete, is an early example of a script used primarily for administrative and religious purposes. While its descendant, Linear B, was eventually deciphered and found to record an early form of Greek, linear, it has resisted interpretation. The symbols are both abstract and precise, indicating a structured system of communication, yet the linguistic key is lost. Every tablet, seal, or inscription that survives is a fragment of a narrative that may never be fully reconstructed. The silent stone and clay stand as testament not only to human ingenuity, but also to the impermanence of knowledge when transmission is interrupted by time, conquest, or cultural collapse. Undeciphered scripts are more than just intellectual puzzles. They are windows into the minds of people who once lived, thought, and dreamed in ways that may differ fundamentally from our own. Each symbol or sequence represents intention, decision, and meaning, carrying with it layers of social, political, and spiritual context that modern observers can only infer. The beauty of these scripts lies not only in their form, but in the imagination they ignite, encouraging us to consider what stories, beliefs, or laws were encoded and what wisdom might have been lost alongside the civilization that created them. In these silent writings, we encounter both the universality of human expression and the profound limits of our current understanding. The act of attempting to decipher these languages is itself a meditation, a slow unfolding of patterns, repetitions, and anomalies that mirrors the patient rhythm of thought and reflection. Scholars examine symbols from countless angles, comparing them with other known scripts, counting occurrences, and seeking statistical regularities. Some symbols appear to indicate numbers or commodities. Others may denote deities, titles, or ritual acts. Yet, even when hypotheses are compelling, the absence of corroborating evidence leaves an open space where imagination drifts freely. It is this space between partial understanding and the unknown that draws listeners and researchers alike into a quiet fascination, a sense of participating in an ongoing dialogue with the past. The undeciphered languages of lost civilizations also carry emotional resonance. They are the echoes of voices that can no longer speak, the thoughts of generations whose words were once heard, read, or sung. There is an inherent poignancy in this silence, a reminder that culture is fragile, that knowledge can vanish, and that even the most sophisticated systems of communication can be rendered mute over time. Yet, in their silence, these scripts speak profoundly, reminding us of the richness of human imagination and the impermanence of even the most intricate cultural achievements. In every enigmatic glyph or symbol, we sense a story partially told, an idea partially preserved, and a civilization partially remembered. Across continents, from the seals of the Indus Valley to the carved tablets of Easter Island and the abstract symbols of Minoan Crete, the presence of these undeciphered scripts forms a subtle but persistent thread. They link civilizations separated by geography and culture through a shared challenge: the desire to communicate, to record, and to preserve meaning, met with the inevitability of loss. In this way, lost languages are not merely puzzles. They are echoes of human intent, cultural fingerprints, and meditative prompts for those who seek to understand. The listener is invited to wander among these symbols, to imagine their sound, rhythm, and significance, drifting slowly through time and thought as the mysteries of language unfold in the mind's quiet imagination. The study of undeciphered scripts also emphasizes a broader truth about history itself. That knowledge is often provisional, partial, and contingent. We understand only fragments of the lives, beliefs, and intellects of ancient peoples. Every deciphered text illuminates part of the past, while every undeciphered script casts a shadow, reminding us that history is composed of both clarity and obscurity. The mind, in contemplating these shadows, is drawn into a gentle, reflective curiosity, a space where mystery and scholarship coexist, inviting both observation and imagination. Ultimately, the silent scripts of lost civilizations are more than intellectual enigmas. They are meditative companions on a journey through history. Each symbol, carved or inscribed, bridges the gap between present and past, inviting the listener to consider what it might have meant to the people who created it. The ambiguity of meaning allows the imagination to drift freely, envisioning ancient rituals, trade, governance, and stories. In this reflective space, the undeciphered scripts become conduits for curiosity, wonder, and quiet contemplation, linking us to the vast continuum of human thought that stretches across millennia, waiting for discovery and reverie. Alongside the physical remnants and undeciphered scripts of lost civilizations, there exists a subtler, more ethereal legacy: the myths, legends, and folklore that these societies left behind. These stories, passed down through generations, often blend history with imagination, fact with allegory, and reality with the extraordinary. Even when cities crumble or languages vanish, legends persist, whispering fragments of collective memory and cultural identity. They are the echoes of lives lived, beliefs held, and fears and hopes imagined, preserved in stories that continue to resonate long after the original storytellers have disappeared. It is within these narratives that civilizations, though vanished, continue to speak to us, offering glimpses into their values, fears, and understanding of the world. Consider the legends of Atlantis, perhaps the most famous lost civilization of all. Plato's dialogues describe a powerful, advanced society that disappeared beneath the waves in a single day and night of misfortune. While scholars debate the historicity of Atlantis, its story persists as a compelling metaphor for hubris, natural disaster, and the fragility of human achievement. The allure of Atlantis lies not only in its possible historical basis, but in the imagination it inspires, a blend of curiosity, longing, and caution. The myth encourages reflection on the impermanence of civilizations, suggesting that even the most advanced societies are ultimately subject to forces beyond their control. Atlantis exists as both a cautionary tale and an invitation to dream, a perfect example of how folklore can preserve the essence of a civilization that may otherwise be lost entirely. In the Americas, the civilizations of the Maya and Aztecs left behind rich mythologies intertwined with their understanding of the cosmos. Their stories of gods, creation, and cosmic cycles were inseparable from daily life, guiding rituals, governance, and agricultural planning. The Popol Vuh, a sacred Mayan text, recounts the creation of the world, the adventures of gods and heroes, and the origin of humanity. These stories are not merely imaginative. They encode cultural values, cosmology, and social norms, preserving the worldview of a people whose cities were later abandoned or destroyed. Similarly, Aztec myths speak of cycles of creation and destruction, reflecting the impermanence observed in both the natural world and human society. These narratives, surviving through oral tradition and fragmented texts, continue to provide insight into the rich intellectual and spiritual life of civilizations that no longer occupy their original lands. In the deserts of Egypt, mythology and ritual were inseparable from daily life and governance. Stories of gods like Osiris, Isis, and Ra guided not only religious observances, but also the organization of society and understanding of the afterlife. The pyramids and temples, silent stone witnesses to human devotion, serve as both monuments and narrative spaces, encoding myths in carvings, reliefs, and alignments with celestial phenomena. Even after the fall of dynasties and the decay of political structures, these myths persisted, preserved in manuscripts, inscriptions, and the collective memory of communities. They remind us that storytelling is a form of continuity, a bridge between past and present that conveys meaning even when other traces of civilization have been lost. Folklore is often more than storytelling. It is a method of preserving knowledge and cultural memory in the absence of written records. Oral traditions can transmit history, geography, cosmology, and societal norms across generations. In African societies, for instance, griots acted as living repositories of history, recounting the deeds of kings, migrations, and battles through poetic and musical performance. Similarly, Aboriginal Australian Dreamtime stories encode knowledge of the landscape, the stars, and seasonal cycles, blending myth with practical instruction. In these cases, myths function as both imaginative narratives and practical guides, demonstrating that folklore was not merely entertainment, but a vital mechanism for the survival and cohesion of society. The interplay between myth and mystery also heightens the allure of lost civilizations. Legends often describe impossible structures, hidden cities, or sacred treasures that have yet to be discovered, blending real places and events with imaginative embellishments. Tales of underground tunnels beneath the pyramids, lost gold hidden in Andean mountains, or enchanted cities in the forests of Southeast Asia fuel exploration and speculation. While archaeology provides tools for verification, the stories themselves persist, sometimes predating any material evidence. They invite the mind to wander, bridging the gap between tangible history and the imagination, and creating a gentle tension between what is known and what remains unknowable. Even when legends are embellished or fantastical, they contain kernels of truth, reflecting aspects of civilization that have otherwise vanished. The recurring motif of great floods, for instance, appears in myths from Mesopotamia, India, the Americas, and the Pacific Islands, suggesting collective memory of environmental catastrophes. Heroic journeys, epic battles, and accounts of divine intervention often encode social values, leadership structures, and historical events. By studying these myths, historians and anthropologists can glean insights into the political, social, and environmental realities of lost civilizations, even when direct evidence is scarce or absent. Folklore, therefore, serves as a complementary form of history, a living record where imagination and memory preserve what is otherwise lost. The persistence of myth across centuries and continents also underscores a fundamental aspect of human culture: the desire to understand, explain, and find meaning in the unknown. In civilizations that have disappeared, myths often addressed existential questions. Why do societies rise and fall? What happens after death? And what forces govern the natural world? These narratives provide context for human experience, connecting people to the rhythms of life and the universe in ways that remain deeply resonant. Even today, these stories continue to captivate, reminding us that human curiosity and imagination are constants, transcending the loss of cities, scripts, and technologies. In reflecting on myths and folklore, we begin to appreciate their dual role. They are both vessels of memory and catalysts for imagination. They preserve fragments of vanished worlds, while simultaneously inviting us to dream, speculate, and reconstruct the rhythms and values of societies long gone. Listening to these stories, one can almost hear the voices of ancient peoples, whispering through time, guiding us not toward definitive answers, but toward a sense of connection with a vast continuum of human experience. This is the quiet power of myth. It allows civilizations that no longer exist physically to persist in thought, imagination, and memory, bridging gaps that material evidence alone cannot. Ultimately, the myths, legends, and folklore of lost civilizations serve as a soft, enduring thread that links past and present. They remind us that even when cities vanish, languages fade, and technologies are forgotten, the human impulse to tell stories endures. These narratives, fragile yet resilient, preserve identity, belief, and wonder. They invite the mind to wander through time and space, to drift alongside ancient peoples as they imagine their gods, heroes, and worlds, and to linger in a meditative tension between history and mystery. In doing so, myths allow us to inhabit the silent spaces left by vanished civilizations, to feel their presence through the enduring power of imagination and storytelling, and to drift gently into contemplation of both what has been lost and what can still be discovered. Alongside the myths and legends, lost civilizations left behind tangible traces that often seem to carry messages from the past in the form of art, symbols, and enigmatic motifs. These creations are more than decorative. They are visual narratives, philosophical reflections, or even coded knowledge that hint at the worldview of their creators. From intricate carvings on temple walls to geometric patterns etched into stone, these artifacts convey meaning across centuries, bridging time and inviting the observer to enter a silent dialogue with the past. The contrast between the permanence of stone and the fleeting lives of those who carve it heightens their poignancy, offering both beauty and mystery. Each motif, shape, or figure becomes a window into the culture, spiritual practice, and imagination of civilizations that have long since vanished. In the temples of Egypt, hieroglyphs and reliefs serve not only as written communication, but as art imbued with sacred significance. Scenes depicting gods, kings, and daily life are carefully stylized, with symbolic proportions and placement that convey deeper meanings beyond the literal. Colors were not chosen at random. Each hue carried spiritual or cosmological significance. Even in tombs, these images were intended to guide the departed, to preserve memory, and to communicate ideals of balance, justice, and divinity. For modern observers, these carvings are both informative and enigmatic. While some symbols are understood, others remain mysterious, hinting at rituals, beliefs, or knowledge that may never be fully reconstructed. The artistry invites reflection, encouraging a quiet meditation on the intersection of human expression, spirituality, and permanence. Similarly, in the Americas, the Mesoamerican civilizations created intricate murals and sculptures that fused artistic mastery with symbolic complexity. The codices of the Maya, for instance, are filled with depictions of deities, celestial events, and ceremonial practices. Every line, color, and figure appears deliberate, often conveying multiple layers of meaning at once. Rituals, astronomy, and mythology are intertwined in a visual language that is at once precise and poetic. Even though many codices were destroyed over centuries, the surviving fragments evoke a civilization with a rich symbolic lexicon, one that encoded knowledge, beliefs, and societal norms in a medium that transcends written words. Engaging with these images encourages the mind to drift across space and time, contemplating the lives, fears, and aspirations of their creators. Beyond formal art, abstract symbols and geometric motifs appear across civilizations worldwide. From the carved spirals and labyrinths of European megaliths to the Nazca lines etched into the Peruvian desert, these designs suggest a deliberate effort to communicate, commemorate, or align with cosmic and earthly cycles. The scale of some of these works, often visible only from a distance or from the sky, amplifies the mystery. Were they intended as messages to the gods, guides for the living, or markers of sacred geography? The lack of definitive answers heightens their allure. Observing these creations, one senses both human ingenuity and an intimate connection with the land, sky, and universe. The patterns are deliberate, yet their ultimate meaning remains suspended in the quiet tension between interpretation and imagination. In the Far East, symbolic art carried philosophical and spiritual weight. Ancient Chinese bronzes, jade carvings, and ceremonial masks display a blend of aesthetic refinement and encoded meaning. Dragons, phoenixes, and other mythological creatures appear repeatedly, symbolizing power, balance, and cosmic forces. The repetition of motifs across centuries indicates a continuity of belief and an understanding of symbolism as a language in its own right. Each artifact, whether functional or ceremonial, is a testament to a civilization that communicated complex ideas visually, inviting contemplation and interpretation across generations. Even today, these objects captivate the imagination, creating a bridge between modern curiosity and ancient intention. Some of the most enigmatic artistic expressions are those whose purpose or meaning seems almost deliberately obscure. Consider the mysterious figurines of the Cycladic civilization, carved with minimalist elegance and abstract form. Scholars debate whether these were religious idols, funerary offerings, or representations of everyday people. The simplicity of design, combined with careful proportion and symmetry, suggests intentionality, yet the interpretation remains open. The ambiguity itself is a form of dialogue with the observer, prompting questions about cultural values, aesthetic principles, and spiritual beliefs. In this sense, art becomes a medium not just for recording, but for enduring mystery, a vessel for human thought that persists even when context is lost. Even practical objects, such as pottery, tools, and jewelry, often carry symbolic elements. Patterns etched into clay, motifs on ceremonial vessels, or ornamentation on personal items can reveal cultural hierarchies, religious affiliation, or societal ideals. These small, everyday artifacts become intimate messengers from the past, hinting at the routines, beliefs, and creative expression of people whose names and stories are mostly forgotten. The tactile nature of these objects allows modern observers to feel a connection, a sense of presence, as though touching the edge of a civilization long vanished. In this way, even the most utilitarian objects acquire a poetic resonance, reminding us that human expression permeates every aspect of life. Symbolism also extends to alignment, placement, and spatial design. Temples, ceremonial grounds, and city layouts often reflect cosmological principles, mirroring celestial patterns or sacred geometry. This intentionality demonstrates that lost civilizations did not separate art from life. They integrated meaning into the very spaces they inhabited. Structures were designed to evoke awe, reverence, or contemplation, guiding both physical and spiritual experience. Observing these alignments today, we are invited into a contemplative dialogue, tracing the rhythm of human thought, cosmology, and environment as carefully orchestrated by those long gone. The presence of art and symbolism in lost civilizations underscores the universality of human curiosity and expression. Across continents and eras, people sought to communicate, to commemorate, and to explore their understanding of existence through visual and symbolic language. Even when written records are lost, the enduring power of art allows a form of communication to survive, offering a bridge between past and present. The silent beauty of these artifacts encourages reflection, imagination, and a meditative engagement with the echoes of human creativity. Ultimately, the artistic and symbolic legacies of lost civilizations are invitations. They invite us to slow down, to observe with attention and sensitivity, and to consider the intricate interplay between utility, belief, and imagination. Each motif, carving, or pattern offers a glimpse of a world where art was both a mirror of reality and a guide to understanding the unseen. In contemplating these creations, the mind drifts across centuries, imagining the hands that carved stone, painted murals, or etched symbols with care and intention. The process is calming, immersive, and thought-provoking, a gentle reminder that even in disappearance, human expression persists, guiding our imagination through time and mystery, and allowing lost civilizations to continue whispering their stories long after their physical presence has faded. No civilization exists in isolation. Even those that seem remote or insular were often part of broader networks of trade, cultural exchange, and communication. Lost civilizations were deeply interconnected, relying on commerce, migration, and the sharing of ideas to survive and flourish. Trade routes carried more than goods. They carried knowledge, technologies, religious beliefs, and artistic styles that shaped distant societies. Understanding these networks helps illuminate the complexity and sophistication of ancient civilizations, revealing that the story of humanity is one of continuous connection, influence, and exchange. It is also a reminder that the disappearance of a civilization often leaves ripples that affect regions far beyond its borders, leaving behind both tangible artifacts and subtle cultural imprints. In the deserts and rivers of Mesopotamia, early urban centers thrived because of trade. Cities like Ur, Babylon, and Uruk became hubs where merchants exchanged grain, textiles, metals, and pottery. These cities were linked to far-reaching trade networks that extended to the Indus Valley, Anatolia, and even Egypt. Archaeological evidence, including exotic materials and inscriptions, points to long-distance commerce that required remarkable organization and negotiation. These trade connections were not merely economic, they were cultural lifelines. Through exchange, civilizations shared technological advances, religious ideas, and artistic motifs, creating a tapestry of influence that spanned continents. Even in collapse, the echoes of these interactions persisted, carried forward by those who survived or migrated to new lands. In the Americas, similar networks existed long before European contact. The Mesoamerican civilizations, including the Maya and the Aztecs, maintained intricate trade routes that connected highland and lowland regions. Obsidian, jade, cacao, textiles, and precious metals moved along these routes, linking city-states and communities separated by mountains, rivers, and deserts. Trade was not purely material. It facilitated the spread of ideas, rituals, and artistic conventions. Merchants acted as cultural emissaries, carrying beliefs and practices as well as goods, and ensuring that even remote regions were influenced by broader currents of civilization. These networks helped maintain stability, support specialization, and enable the growth of urban centers, demonstrating that commerce was as much a social glue as an economic necessity. Across the Mediterranean, trade similarly connected diverse civilizations. The Minoans of Crete, for example, established maritime routes that linked them to Egypt, the Levant, and mainland Greece. They transported pottery, metals, saffron, and textiles, leaving traces in distant lands that reveal both their reach and influence. These networks allowed the Minoans to disseminate their art, writing, and religious ideas, shaping the cultures of their neighbors. Even after their decline, the artifacts and stylistic elements they spread continued to resonate, influencing the architecture, art, and religious practices of subsequent societies. Trade, in this sense, became a form of cultural preservation, allowing aspects of a civilization to endure even when political power or cities disappeared. The Mediterranean was not unique in this regard. Across Asia, the Silk Road connected civilizations from China to the Middle East, facilitating the movement of silk, spices, metals, and knowledge. Though we often associate the Silk Road with later periods, its antecedents trace back to ancient times, revealing that early societies were part of expansive networks that integrated distant lands. These routes were arteries of civilization, enabling technological and cultural diffusion that shaped the course of history. The flow of ideas, not just goods, highlights how interconnected human development has always been. Even in epochs we often think of as isolated or primitive. In Africa, trade networks extended across the Sahara, connecting sub-Saharan kingdoms with Mediterranean and Middle Eastern civilizations. Gold, salt, ivory, and other commodities moved along these routes, but so did religion, language, and cultural practices. These exchanges were pivotal in shaping the social, political, and economic structures of societies both near and far. Even when specific kingdoms fell, the trade routes persisted, carrying forward innovations, beliefs, and cultural practices into new contexts. The legacy of these networks demonstrates that lost civilizations often leave enduring imprints far beyond the physical bounds of their former territories. Trade was not only a facilitator of material exchange, it also transmitted knowledge and technology in ways that contributed to the advancement of multiple civilizations simultaneously. Metallurgical techniques, agricultural practices, irrigation strategies, and artistic methods often spread along these routes, sometimes improving the resilience of societies, sometimes creating dependencies that would later become vulnerabilities. The movement of knowledge across civilizations illustrates the subtle but profound impact of connectivity, highlighting that what may appear to be a local phenomenon is often part of a larger, intertwined story. Understanding these connections enriches our perception of lost civilizations, framing them not as isolated anomalies, but as integral nodes in a global network of human ingenuity. The disappearance of a civilization therefore reverberates through these trade networks. The collapse of one city or empire could disrupt the flow of goods and ideas, affecting regions hundreds or thousands of miles away. Conversely, the continuity of certain goods, motifs, and technologies long after the fall of a civilization indicates that influence persists even when political or social structures vanish. In this way, trade becomes a lens through which we can perceive both the fragility and resilience of human societies. Even in absence, lost civilizations continue to shape the cultural and technological landscapes of regions far beyond their original location. Examining these networks also highlights the universality of human curiosity and adaptability. Across continents, societies innovated not just to survive, but to connect, explore, and engage with the wider world. Trade routes were expressions of human curiosity, ambition, and ingenuity, demonstrating that even in antiquity, people sought to reach beyond immediate horizons, forging connections across vast distances. The complexity of these systems is a reminder that civilizations are not simply defined by their monuments or written records, but by their interactions, their exchanges, and their participation in a larger human story. Ultimately, the trade and commerce of lost civilizations provide a rich framework for understanding their sophistication and reach. They remind us that human history is rarely a story of isolated communities, but of interconnected networks, where influence, innovation, and ideas flow across time and space. In contemplating these networks, the mind drifts across deserts, rivers, mountains, and seas, imagining caravans, ships, and merchants carrying goods, stories, and innovations from one society to another. The gentle rhythm of this flow evokes a sense of continuity and connection, emphasizing that even in disappearance, civilizations leave enduring traces through the networks they once navigated, and through the subtle cultural and technological legacies that persist across time and space. The story of the Sea Peoples begins not with their appearance, but with their absence, an eerie silence in the archaeological record that is suddenly broken by a wave of destruction across the ancient Mediterranean world. Around the late 13th century BCE, entire cities fell, trade networks collapsed, and kingdoms that once dominated the region simply ceased to function. It was a moment when the known world trembled, and within that trembling, ancient scribes etched desperate warnings about mysterious invaders who came from the sea. Even today, these invaders remain one of history's most enduring enigmas. All we have are scattered accounts, fragmentary inscriptions, and the ruins left behind in their wake. They are remembered collectively by a name imposed upon them by later scholars, the Sea Peoples. The calm unraveling of this mystery begins with an understanding of the world they encountered. In the late Bronze Age, civilizations like Egypt, the Hittite Empire, and the Mycenaean kingdoms formed a tightly woven web of alliances and commerce. Their ships carried copper, tin, wine, and luxury goods across waters that connected cultures rather than divided them. Trade routes hummed with life, and political power stretched across continents. Yet beneath this surface of stability lay fragility. Droughts were intensifying, palace economies were strained, and internal conflict simmered. When the Sea Peoples appeared, it was as though they arrived precisely at the moment when the old world was least capable of resisting. The first clues about their identity come from Egyptian hieroglyphic records, most notably the inscriptions of Pharaoh Merneptah and those of Ramses III at the mortuary temple of Medinet Habu. These carvings show fleets attacking the Nile Delta, warriors with feathered headdresses, ox-drawn carts filled with families, and a sense that this was not a temporary raid, but a movement of entire peoples. The Egyptians listed several groups: the Shurdin, Shikalesh, Pele-Set, Dinyen, Tjeker, and others, as though they were confederations united by a shared purpose or a shared desperation. Yet we still do not know whether these were distinct ethnic groups, mercenaries seeking new homelands, or displaced populations fleeing environmental collapse. Their origins remain blurred, their motivations uncertain. One of the most haunting qualities of the Sea Peoples is the contrast between the clarity of their destruction and the mystery of their beginnings. Archaeologists can clearly trace the impact of their arrival. Layers of ash in once thriving cities, abrupt ends to cultural styles, and a sudden disappearance of administrative systems that had endured for centuries. But tracing them back to an origin point feels like trying to follow a footprint through water. Some theories suggest they came from the Aegean, perhaps connected to Mycenaean refugees fleeing the fall of their own kingdoms. Others propose origins in Anatolia, Cyprus, or even further west. Climate data points to severe droughts around this time, hinting that mass migrations may have been driven by crop failures and famine. Yet none of these explanations fully capture the scale or coordination of the events that followed. The imagery carved at Medinet Habu becomes a quiet guide through this uncertainty. It depicts ships locked in chaotic battle, but also entire migrant groups, women, children, wagons, suggesting a sweeping, civilization-wide displacement. Whether they were invaders or refugees or something in between remains a matter of interpretation. What is clearer is that their arrival marked a profound turning point in ancient history. One by one, the palatial societies of the Bronze Age fell, not always due to violence alone, but also to the destabilizing ripple effects that followed. When major ports and trade centers collapsed, supply chains broke apart, leaving dependent kingdoms weakened. Without bronze, armies could no longer be maintained. Without stable food supplies, population scattered. A long twilight descended over the Mediterranean, a period historians sometimes call the Bronze Age collapse. Yet even within this dramatic change, the story is not entirely one of destruction. Some scholars believe the Sea Peoples did not simply bring ruin, but also contributed to the formation of new cultures. The Peleset, often linked to the Philistines, are thought by many to have settled on the coastal plain of Canaan, blending with local cultures and influencing pottery styles, architecture, and social structures. Other groups may have merged into emerging Iron Age societies, helping shape the very world that grew from the ashes of the collapse. In this perspective, the Sea Peoples represent not an end, but a transition, a turbulent, mysterious bridge between eras. Despite this, the mystery remains compelling precisely because of what we still cannot explain. If they were refugees, why did they move in such organized, militarized formations? If they were warriors seeking new land, why do many depictions include entire families and household goods? If they were merely opportunistic raiders, how did they manage to destabilize multiple major civilizations at once? The quiet tension between evidence and uncertainty echoes through every artifact, inscription, and archaeological layer associated with them. As we drift further into this story, it becomes clear that the Sea Peoples are not simply a historical puzzle, but a reflection of how history itself is recorded or lost. Ancient scribes tended to record victories rather than neutral observations, meaning that much of what we know is filtered through the political needs of the time. Egypt's accounts, though detailed, were crafted to glorify pharaohs who repelled invasions. Meanwhile, the cultures that fell often left no surviving voices to explain what happened from their perspective. The silence of these vanished civilizations deepens the sense of mystery, as though the Sea Peoples moved through a world already beginning to fade. In the calm of nighttime listening, the Sea People's story becomes less a tale of battle and more a meditation on humanity's vulnerability to change. Entire networks of powerful kingdoms collapsed, not simply because of foreign invaders, but because multiple pressures, economic, environmental, social, converged at the same time. It was a reminder that even the most interconnected eras can unravel swiftly, leaving behind only the faint outlines of what once was. The Sea Peoples, in this sense, are both actors and symbols of a larger historical transformation. The thread of mystery that runs through their story leads naturally into the next question. How many other civilizations have slipped into obscurity because their stories were overshadowed or erased by time? The collapse triggered by the Sea Peoples becomes a doorway into understanding how fragile even the most advanced societies can be, and how easily their knowledge can be lost to shifting climate, conflict, and migration. This sense of disappearance, of worlds fading without explanation, guides us toward another civilization shaped by both grandeur and silence, waiting quietly beneath layers of history to be rediscovered. The kingdom of Aksum rises quietly in the historical imagination, a place mentioned in ancient chronicles yet often overlooked in mainstream narratives. When it does appear, it arrives like a half-remembered dream, a powerful African empire that once rivaled Rome and Persia, only to fade slowly into obscurity. Set in the highlands of what is now Ethiopia and Eritrea, Aksum was a crossroads of cultures, a land where traders carried ivory, gold, incense, and spices along routes that connected Africa with Arabia, India, and beyond. Yet despite its significance, the deeper truths of Aksum's rise and fall remain enveloped in shadows. Much like a monument eroded by time, its grandeur is visible, but the inscriptions explaining its full story have faded away. The calm unraveling of this civilization begins with its geographical setting. The Aksumite highlands were lush compared to surrounding regions, nourished by seasonal rains that fed fertile terraces. This environment gave rise to agricultural abundance, supporting a growing population and sophisticated social structures. Aksum's position near the Red Sea allowed it to become a maritime power, controlling trade routes between the Mediterranean and the Indian Ocean. Ships from distant lands would dock at the port city of Adulis, where merchants exchanged goods under the watchful eyes of Aksumite officials. From these transactions, wealth flowed into the heart of the kingdom, funding monumental architecture and innovations that astonished ancient travelers. Among the most striking symbols of Aksum's ambition are its towering stelae, monolithic stone obelisks carved with intricate designs, some reaching heights of over 30 meters. These structures served as markers for royal tombs, standing as silent guardians over the remains of kings whose names and stories have mostly been lost. The engineering required to quarry, transport, and erect such massive stones remains a mystery. Some theories suggest that large teams of workers, ropes, and wooden sledges were used. Others propose even more complex systems involving levers and stone ramps. Yet none of these explanations fully account for the precision and scale of the monuments. Their presence evokes a sense of awe, as though they were designed to bridge the earthly world with something higher and more enduring. The kingdom's written language, Guizi, offers tantalizing glimpses into Aksum's culture and governance. Inscriptions carved on stone tablets mention kings who expanded territory through military campaigns or diplomacy. However, many records that might have explained Aksum's inner workings have not survived the passage of time. Historians depend on fragments, foreign accounts, and archaeological traces to reconstruct its past. This incomplete picture creates a gentle tension between what is known and what remains unknown, giving Aksum an aura of graceful mystery. Unlike civilizations whose histories are well documented, Aksum exists partly in the realm of suggestion, inviting quiet contemplation. One of the most intriguing chapters of Aksum's story involves its early adoption of Christianity. In the 4th century CE, King Izana embraced the new faith, making Aksum one of the first major empires to convert. The shift transformed the kingdom's identity, influencing its art, architecture, and international relations. Crosses began to appear on coins, replacing earlier symbols, and churches were constructed in place of older ritual sites. Yet the details of how Christianity spread so rapidly and how it blended with existing cultural traditions are still debated. Archaeologists find hints of older belief systems intertwined with Christian motifs, suggesting a gradual and complex transformation rather than a sudden change. This spiritual layering creates a subtle sense of duality, light and shadow coexisting within the same cultural landscape. The decline of Aksum is perhaps the most mysterious part of its history. Around the 7th century CE, the kingdom began to lose its grip on the Red Sea trade routes. The rise of Islamic maritime powers shifted commercial networks, redirecting wealth and influence. Environmental changes, including soil exhaustion and possible climate shifts, may have strained agricultural production. Conflicts with neighboring groups further weakened the empire, leading to the relocation of its political center and the gradual dispersal of its population. Yet the exact causes of the decline remain debated. It is unclear whether Aksum fell suddenly or faded slowly over generations. The absence of clear answers gives this period a soft melancholy, a sense of a great civilization dissolving into the quiet background of history. As centuries passed, many of Aksum's monumental structures became partially buried or reclaimed by nature. The largest stela, once thought to be standing proudly, lay broken on the ground, its colossal pieces scattered like remnants of a forgotten dream. Local traditions preserved some memory of Aksum's past, but outside awareness diminished. When European explorers reached the region in later eras, they were astonished to find such monumental structures in a place they had never imagined as a center of ancient power. Their writings, though often filtered through their own biases, reignited interest in the kingdom. Still, that interest did little to illuminate the deeper mysteries. Only modern archaeology has begun revealing Aksum's full scope. Even with contemporary research, many questions about the kingdom endure. The exact boundaries of its territory are uncertain. Trade records imply a vast sphere of influence, but archaeological evidence is scattered. The lives of ordinary Aksumites, farmers, merchants, artisans, remain largely undocumented, leaving scholars to interpret their existence through pottery fragments, burial remains, and the foundations of ancient homes. Each discovery adds a small piece to the puzzle, yet the overall picture feels incomplete, like a tapestry with frayed edges where entire patterns are missing. Amid these uncertainties, the kingdom's religious traditions left an enduring legacy that extends into the present. Ethiopian Christianity preserves rituals, manuscripts, and architectural styles that trace back to Aksum, creating a living link to the ancient empire. Churches carved from rock, illuminated manuscripts written in Guizi, and oral stories passed down through generations keep fragments of Aksum's spirit alive. These living traditions contrast beautifully with the static ruins scattered across the landscape. One breathes, the other stands silent, together forming a bridge between past and present. The mystery of Aksum's disappearance is not merely a historical problem. It reflects a broader theme of how civilizations evolve and fade. Powerful empires do not always leave behind clear accounts of their final moments. Sometimes they endure in fragments, in architecture, language, customs, while the reasons for their decline dissolve into ambiguity. In the case of Aksum, what remains is a gentle echo rather than a detailed chronicle. It is a civilization defined as much by what we cannot access as by what has been preserved. As we contemplate Aksum's story in the soft quiet of a nighttime documentary, it becomes a meditative exploration of impermanence and resilience. The kingdom's grandeur reminds us of humanity's capacity for creativity and innovation, while its gradual decline demonstrates how even the strongest societies can be shaped by forces beyond their control: environment, trade shifts, cultural change. The ruins do not tell a story of sudden catastrophe, but of slow transformation, where centuries drifted by and the center of power gradually shifted elsewhere. This reflective tone guides us toward the next mystery. From the Stele Rising in the Ethiopian highlands, our attention moves to another ancient civilization known for its monumental stone architecture carved directly from cliffs. Just as Aksum left behind towering markers of memory, the Nabateans left behind an entire city sculpted into rose-red rock. The transition feels natural, like turning a page from one quiet mystery to the next, each unique, yet connected by the shared human impulse to build, to believe, and ultimately to disappear into the gentle flow of time. The Nabateans appear in history like figures emerging from the desert mist, traders, engineers, and builders whose legacy is carved directly into the rock of southern Jordan. Petra, their most famous city, is not simply a settlement, but a wonder of ingenuity, blending human ambition with natural landscapes. Red sandstone cliffs rise around narrow canyons, revealing facades that seem almost alive in the shifting sunlight, their intricate carvings simultaneously monumental and delicate. These structures are a testament to the Nabateans' mastery over their environment, yet the civilization itself remains enigmatic. We know little about their origins or ultimate fate, and this tension between clarity and mystery gives their story a haunting quality, perfect for quiet contemplation. The Nabateans thrived in the harsh, arid terrain of the Arabian Desert, a region where water scarcity could easily determine life or death. Their brilliance lay in their ability to harness and manage this precious resource. Ingenious systems of cisterns, channels, and reservoirs captured seasonal rainfall, storing water for use during the long, dry months. Archaeologists have found hundreds of carved cisterns scattered across Petra and other sites, evidence of a society that not only survived but flourished in an unforgiving environment. By mastering water, the Nabateans transformed the desert into a city of wonder, demonstrating how necessity can inspire extraordinary innovation. Trade formed the lifeblood of their civilization. Petra sat at the crossroads of multiple caravan routes, connecting Arabia, the Levant, Egypt, and Mesopotamia. Through these routes, they transported frankincense, myrrh, spices, and textiles, acquiring wealth and influence far beyond what their modest population might suggest. Merchants and diplomats alike ensured that Petra became a hub of both commerce and culture. The city was not merely a place to exchange goods. It was a place where ideas, artistic motifs, and technologies from distant lands merged, creating a unique and sophisticated urban environment. Yet despite these achievements, the Nabateans left few written records, and much of what we know comes from inscriptions, coinage, and the architectural traces of their extraordinary city. Petra itself offers a quiet, almost meditative narrative to the observer. Walking through the Sick, a narrow gorge that opens suddenly to the treasury, one experiences a sense of unveiling, as though stepping into a hidden world preserved by time. The facades are elaborately carved with columns, niches, and ornamental patterns, reflecting a culture that valued both utility and beauty. The treasury is perhaps the most iconic, its grandeur framed by a natural amphitheater of cliffs. Beyond its function as a tomb, it is also a statement of identity, wealth, and technical skill. Yet these structures evoke questions as much as admiration. How did the Nabateans coordinate such monumental construction without the large, centralized bureaucracies seen in other ancient civilizations? How did they balance artistic ambition with the practical demands of desert survival? One of the most compelling mysteries concerns their origins. Historical accounts suggest they emerged as nomadic Arab tribes before settling into the cities that would define their civilization. But the timing, routes, and processes of this transition are debated. Did they adopt sedentary life gradually, integrating influences from surrounding civilizations, or did an organized strategy allow them to dominate key trade routes almost overnight? Evidence points to a combination of both. A deep understanding of the desert, flexibility in adapting to circumstances, and selective borrowing of architectural and cultural elements from Hellenistic, Egyptian, and Mesopotamian traditions. This blend of native ingenuity and external influence adds layers to the Nabatean story, blurring the line between local innovation and cultural synthesis. Religious life in Petra is equally intriguing, though shrouded in ambiguity. Archaeological evidence points to polytheistic practices, with deities linked to fertility, water, and the celestial sphere. Temples and altars, often carved directly into rock faces, suggest a close connection between spiritual practice and the natural world. Yet the exact rituals, myths, and belief systems remain largely unknown. The absence of detailed written records means that much of their religious life can only be inferred from iconography and the spatial arrangement of sacred spaces. This silence imbues Petra with a quiet spirituality. The city itself becomes a vessel for mystery, inviting contemplation rather than explanation. The decline of the Nabateans is another layer of their enigmatic allure. By the 2nd century CE, Roman expansion began to reshape the region. Petra was absorbed into the Roman Empire. Its independence slowly eroded. Trade routes shifted with the changing political landscape, redirecting commerce away from the desert city. Earthquakes damaged key infrastructure, including aqueducts and tombs, further destabilizing the urban center. Within a few centuries, Petra's population dwindled, and much of its brilliance faded into obscurity. The ruins were largely forgotten by the outside world, preserved mainly in local memory and oral tradition until European explorers rediscovered them in the 19th century. This slow disappearance adds a sense of melancholy to Petra's story, as a city once thriving with life quietly succumbed to time and circumstance. Despite their disappearance, the Nabateans' architectural and engineering achievements continue to captivate modern imagination. Scholars and visitors alike marvel at the precision of rock-cut facades, the durability of water systems, and the seamless integration of human design with natural landscapes. Each element reflects an understanding of proportion, function, and aesthetics that seems almost otherworldly. Even without comprehensive written records, Petra communicates the essence of civilization through space, stone, and ingenuity. It is a silent teacher, offering lessons about adaptation, resilience, and the delicate balance between human ambition and environmental reality. The Nabateans also leave behind subtle reminders of cultural interplay. Artistic motifs carved into the rock reveal influences from Greek, Roman, and Egyptian styles, yet the interpretations are uniquely Nabatean. Coins from Petra feature inscriptions and symbols that suggest a sophisticated economy and engagement with distant polities. These artifacts hint at a society that, while isolated in the desert, maintained a cosmopolitan outlook, negotiating identity and influence in a complex world. It is this delicate tension between isolation and connectivity, secrecy and revelation, that makes the Nabateans endlessly fascinating. As we wander through Petra's ancient streets in imagination, there's a lingering sense of quiet mystery. The city, though devoid of its original inhabitants, carries echoes of their lives, the traders, artisans, and priests who shaped its spaces. One can almost sense the rhythm of their days. The careful management of water, the loading of caravans with precious goods, the carving of monumental facades, and the performance of rituals within sacred chambers. Yet these glimpses are always partial, leaving room for imagination to fill the spaces where evidence has vanished. This interplay of presence and absence is central to the Nabateans' enduring allure. In the soft hush of reflection, Petra becomes more than a historical site. It is a meditation on impermanence, creativity, and the enduring human impulse to leave a mark on the world. The Nabateans demonstrate that civilizations do not require vast armies or written chronicles to create lasting influence. Careful adaptation, ingenuity, and subtle integration with the environment can achieve equally profound effects. Their story reminds us that much of human history is hidden, waiting quietly in stones, ruins, and whispers of the wind across desert canyons. From Petra, the narrative of lost civilizations begins to broaden outward. The Nabateans' mastery over an unforgiving environment leads naturally to questions about other ancient societies that vanished or transformed under environmental, social, or economic pressures. As we leave the rose-red city behind, the mind drifts toward distant lands and times, toward mysteries buried under sand, water, and centuries of forgetfulness. The transition feels gentle, almost inevitable, as if each vanished civilization guides us calmly to the next, linked by themes of adaptation, ingenuity, and the haunting beauty of what is partially lost to history. Far to the east, in the lush valleys and mountains of Southeast Asia, the mysterious civilization of Angkor rises quietly in history's memory, its story partially hidden beneath dense forests and creeping vines. Unlike the desert mastery of the Nabateans, Angkor flourished in a tropical landscape, its ingenuity expressed not in stone-carved canyons, but in vast temple complexes and hydraulic engineering. The Khmer Empire, which reached its height between the 9th and 15th centuries, created a capital that was at once a religious center, administrative hub, and living city. Today, the ruins of Angkor Wat, Bayon, and top prone whisper of a civilization whose sophistication challenges modern understanding. Yet much about its rise and decline remains shrouded in gentle mystery, inviting quiet reflection and speculation. Water was central to Angkor's brilliance and survival. The empire engineered an intricate system of canals, reservoirs, and moats to manage seasonal monsoons and maintain year-round agriculture. These systems allowed rice paddies to flourish across vast plains, sustaining a dense population and feeding both the labor force and elite classes. Unlike many civilizations whose architecture dominates the landscape, Angkor's genius lies equally in its invisible infrastructure. The water networks were not only practical but also symbolic, reflecting cosmic beliefs of balance and abundance. This combination of utility and spirituality reveals a civilization deeply attuned to both nature and cosmology, blurring the line between science and sacred intent. The temples themselves stand as monumental reflections of belief, artistry, and political power. Angkor Wat, the empire's most famous structure, stretches over 162 hectares, its concentric galleries and towering spires designed to mirror the cosmic Mount Meru, a sacred mountain in Hindu cosmology. Carvings on its walls depict stories from the Ramayana, Mahabharata, and local legends, intertwining mythology with royal propaganda. Bayon, with its enigmatic smiling faces, presents an equally fascinating puzzle. Scholars debate whether these faces represent the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, King Jayavarman VII himself, or a combination of both. The visual language of these temples is both precise and mysterious, inviting viewers to immerse themselves in narratives that are partly legible, partly elusive. Walking among these structures, one senses a civilization reaching for eternity through stone, water, and myth. Yet Angkor's power was not merely architectural, it was deeply administrative. The Khmer Empire maintained a hierarchical system of governance, mobilizing tens of thousands of laborers, soldiers, and artisans to construct its monumental works. Local communities were organized into units, contributing labor and resources to the capital. However, records of these systems are scarce, and much of what we understand comes from inscriptions on stele or temple walls. The absence of comprehensive documentation leaves scholars piecing together fragmented narratives, much like assembling a puzzle with missing pieces. The result is a civilization that feels simultaneously vivid and elusive, where every discovery seems to deepen rather than simplify the mystery. Religious transformation is another layer of Angkor's story. Initially Hindu, the empire gradually adopted Mahayana Buddhism, particularly under King Jayavarman VII. Temples were repurposed, iconography adjusted, and new monuments constructed to reflect the evolving spiritual landscape. This transformation was not abrupt. Elements of Hindu and Buddhist practices coexisted, layered upon one another in subtle and complex ways. Archaeologists uncover traces of both traditions intertwined within temple carvings, inscriptions, and sculptures. This blending of faiths reflects a culture of adaptability and synthesis, yet also leaves a faint shadow of uncertainty. How exactly did the people reconcile these spiritual worlds, and how did this integration influence the empire's social cohesion? The decline of Angkor is perhaps as enigmatic as its rise. By the 15th century, the empire had gradually lost power to neighboring kingdoms, with repeated invasions from Ayutthaya and environmental pressures contributing to its downfall. Recent studies suggest that prolonged droughts, changes in river courses, and soil depletion may have undermined agricultural production, creating a slow erosion of economic and political stability. Unlike a dramatic conquest that leaves clear scars, Angkor's decline appears gradual, almost imperceptible at the time, leaving ruins to be reclaimed by jungle over centuries. This subtle fading enhances the dreamlike quality of Angkor, a thriving metropolis transformed into quiet, overgrown stone, echoing with the faint rhythms of a long-lost civilization. The surrounding jungle plays an integral role in how we experience Angkor today. Trees weave roots through temple walls, moss softens the sharp edges of carved stone, and sunlight filters through leaves onto corridors that were once bustling with activity. This symbiotic relationship between nature and ruin creates a sense of meditative timelessness. Unlike civilizations buried beneath sand or water, Angkor's reclamation by the forest feels alive, as though the environment itself participates in the narrative. Walking among these ruins, one senses both human achievement and the unstoppable passage of time, a balance between creation and entropy that resonates deeply with the reflective tone of a sleep-friendly documentary. Artistic expression in Angkor reveals cultural sophistication. Bas-reliefs depict scenes of daily life, royal ceremonies, and mythological battles. Some carvings portray armies and merchants, laborers and dancers, capturing the vibrancy of an empire in motion. Yet these depictions are selective, emphasizing grandeur and divine favor while leaving ordinary struggles largely unrecorded. This selective memory encourages viewers to imagine what daily life might have been like, constructing partial histories that blend fact and conjecture. In this way, the empire maintains a delicate tension between the known and the unknown, inviting curiosity and contemplation in equal measure. Inscriptions on stone and temple walls provide fragments of historical record, yet many remain cryptic. Royal decrees, religious dedications, and territorial claims give glimpses into political and spiritual life, but they rarely explain the underlying social dynamics or personal experiences of ordinary people. Scholars must read between the lines, interpreting symbolic gestures and correlating archaeological evidence to reconstruct the narrative. This scarcity of clear records mirrors the experience of the modern observer. One sees immense beauty and structure, but also recognizes the vast spaces left unfilled, the silence between carved lines that suggest stories lost to time. The interplay of water, stone, and spirituality in Angkor presents a unique lens on human ingenuity. The Khmer civilization demonstrates that technical mastery and cultural expression can coexist in subtle, interdependent ways. Their hydraulic systems, far from purely functional, reflect a worldview that intertwined ecology, cosmology, and governance. The temples, simultaneously artistic and administrative, show that architecture can serve multiple layers of purpose: practical, symbolic, political, and spiritual. Observing this synthesis, one is drawn into a contemplative state, appreciating not only the grandeur, but also the profound intelligence of design embedded in every stone, canal, and carving. Angkor's story also evokes the transient nature of human empires. Despite extraordinary achievements, the empire could not escape environmental pressures, political competition, and changing trade networks. Its decline was slow, almost imperceptible, and left behind ruins that gradually merged with the surrounding forest. Yet the traces of this civilization persist, speaking to future generations through architecture, inscriptions, and cultural legacy. The city's gradual disappearance mirrors other lost civilizations we have encountered: the Nabateans, Aksum, and even those more ancient cultures whose echoes reach us faintly across millennia. In each case, what remains invites quiet reflection rather than dramatic revelation. As we linger in the imagined corridors of Angkor, the mind naturally drifts to the broader patterns connecting these lost civilizations. The Khmer Empire, like Petra and Aksum, reflects the human impulse to create enduring monuments, to adapt ingeniously to environmental challenges, and to leave a mark on the world that survives beyond immediate political or military power. At the same time, each civilization demonstrates that even remarkable ingenuity cannot prevent decline, particularly when external pressures and internal complexities converge. This duality, the capacity for brilliance alongside the inevitability of impermanence, is central to the meditative exploration of history that defines sleep-friendly historical documentaries. Leaving Angkor behind, our attention turns to other corners of the world where civilizations quietly vanished, leaving behind fragments, stones, and stories partially erased by time. Just as the desert and tropical landscapes shaped the Nabateans and the Khmer, so too do geography, climate, and human ambition influence the fates of all civilizations. The journey from Southeast Asia naturally transitions to the Americas, where advanced societies arose long before European contact, leaving monumental architecture, sophisticated calendars, and profound mysteries that continue to puzzle scholars. The connection is subtle yet clear. Human ingenuity, creativity, and resilience manifest everywhere, but the passage of time ensures that much remains tantalizingly elusive. Across the vast landscapes of the Americas, the mysterious civilizations of Mesoamerica and South America emerge as extraordinary testaments to human ingenuity and imagination. The Maya, the Inca, and other societies developed complex urban centers, agricultural systems, and astronomical knowledge, yet so much of their history remains partially veiled. Cities rose in the midst of jungles, mountains, and deserts, each tailored to the unique environment and culture that nurtured it. Unlike the Nabateans, who carved a city into cliffs, or the Khmer, who reshaped waterways and built monumental temples, the Americans created entirely self-contained worlds that reflected the rhythm of nature and the cosmos. Their achievements are tangible yet enigmatic, leaving modern explorers and scholars in awe of both their complexity and their mysteries. The Maya civilization, flourishing from roughly 2000 BCE to 1500 CE, exemplifies this blend of sophistication and enigma. Cities like Tikal, Palenque, and Copan display remarkable knowledge of mathematics, astronomy, and architecture. Step pyramids rise from dense jungle floors, aligned precisely with celestial events, creating a cityscape that functions as both habitation and observatory. Hieroglyphic inscriptions, carved into stone and painted on codices, provide a window into political history, religious ceremonies, and royal lineages. Yet these records are incomplete, fragmented by time and conquest, leaving historians to reconstruct narratives from the faint echoes of the past. The Maya mastered time itself, developing calendars of astonishing precision, yet their collapse remains partly mysterious, prompting questions about environmental, social, and political dynamics that we still cannot fully answer. Maya agricultural techniques reveal a deep understanding of ecology. They constructed terraces, raised fields, and irrigation systems to support dense populations, often in regions prone to drought or flooding. These innovations were not merely practical, but integrated into a broader cultural framework, reflecting a harmony between human needs and the natural environment. Their agricultural methods allowed for both sustenance and ceremonial abundance, feeding populations while reinforcing social hierarchies and religious practices. Yet despite these successes, some regions experienced sudden depopulation and decline, highlighting the delicate balance between innovation, environment, and societal resilience. Moving southward, the Inca Empire demonstrates an equally sophisticated yet distinct approach to civilization. Rising in the 13th century, the Incas built an empire that stretched across the Andes, connecting deserts, valleys, and mountains through an extensive road system. Machu Picchu, perched on a rugged mountain ridge, exemplifies their ability to harmonize architecture with terrain. Terraced fields climb steep slopes, aqueducts channel mountain streams, and stone structures resist seismic activity with remarkable precision. The Incas managed vast populations and resources without a written language, relying on quipus, knotted strings for record-keeping, and a highly organized administrative system. Their achievements illustrate the human capacity for coordination and adaptation on a scale that challenges modern assumptions about pre-industrial societies. The spiritual dimension of these American civilizations adds another layer of fascination. The Maya and the Inca built their urban centers in alignment with celestial bodies, reflecting a cosmology in which the movements of the stars and planets were intimately tied to human affairs. Temples, pyramids, and sacred sites serve as portals between the earthly and divine, reinforcing the connection between political power and spiritual authority. Religious ceremonies, often involving offerings or ritual performance, were not merely symbolic, but integral to maintaining societal cohesion and cosmic balance. These practices remain partially mysterious. Many rituals, beliefs, and symbolic languages were suppressed or lost during the Spanish conquest, leaving modern scholars and visitors to imagine the full depth of their spiritual lives. One of the most compelling enigmas of the Americas lies in the sudden decline and disappearance of some civilizations. The classic Maya collapse, occurring between the 8th and 9th centuries, saw the abandonment of major cities across the southern lowlands. Scholars debate the causes: prolonged droughts, deforestation, soil exhaustion, political conflict, or a combination of factors. Similarly, the northern centers like Chichen Itza and Uxmal maintained influence for some time, yet the reasons behind regional shifts in power remain partly unclear. These disappearances evoke a haunting sense of impermanence, reminding us that even highly advanced societies are vulnerable to environmental, social, and political pressures. Archaeological exploration in the Americas has uncovered countless clues, yet continues to pose new questions. In addition to monumental architecture, artifacts such as ceremonial masks, pottery, textiles, and metalwork reveal artistic mastery and cultural complexity. Yet interpreting these objects is challenging, as symbolism and context are often lost or obscured. Each discovery feels like a conversation across centuries, offering a fragment of understanding while maintaining the larger mystery. This interplay between revelation and enigma sustains a quiet curiosity, drawing viewers into contemplation rather than providing definitive answers. The Andean civilizations also showcase remarkable engineering, particularly in transportation and communication. Roads traverse steep mountain ranges, connecting distant settlements with precision. Suspension bridges, some constructed with natural fibers, allowed travel over deep gorges and rivers. Storage facilities, administrative centers, and terraced agricultural plots indicate meticulous planning and coordination. Yet, despite these impressive feats, much of the logistical genius of these societies remains partially obscured. Scholars continue to uncover evidence of sophisticated labor organization and resource management, yet the absence of written narratives leaves interpretation open to educated conjecture, preserving the air of mystery that surrounds these civilizations. Astronomical knowledge further connects American civilizations to broader questions of human cognition and observation. The alignment of pyramids, temples, and observatories with solstices, equinoxes, and planetary cycles suggests that these societies were keenly aware of celestial patterns and their implications for agriculture, ritual, and governance. Observing these alignments today, one senses not only technical skill, but also a worldview in which humans are integrated with the cosmos. This understanding challenges modern assumptions about the separation of science, religion, and daily life in ancient societies, demonstrating that knowledge can be both practical and sacred simultaneously. The decline of the Inca Empire, precipitated by internal strife and the arrival of Spanish conquistadors in the 16th century, mirrors the fragile intersection of human ambition and external forces seen in other civilizations. Within a few decades, a vast empire with complex administrative networks and monumental architecture was brought to submission. Yet, even in collapse, the Incas left enduring legacies. Terraces that continue to sustain agriculture, roads that facilitate travel across mountains, and cultural traditions that survive among modern Andean populations. These remnants provide insight into both resilience and fragility, illustrating the long shadow of human ingenuity across centuries. Cultural continuity amid disappearance is a recurring theme in the Americas. While cities were abandoned and empires fell, knowledge, art, and ritual persisted in local communities. Languages, oral histories, and traditional practices carry echoes of these civilizations into the present, bridging past and present in subtle ways. This continuity contrasts with the abrupt silence left in other parts of the world, suggesting that the story of lost civilizations is never entirely closed. The Americas, in particular, offer a layered tapestry of discovery, mystery, and living heritage, blending the tangible and intangible in ways that captivate the imagination. In reflecting on these American civilizations, one is struck by the interplay of brilliance and impermanence. Monumental achievements in architecture, engineering, agriculture, and astronomy testify to extraordinary human capability, yet environmental shifts, societal pressures, and external conquest remind us of the fragility inherent in even the most advanced societies. This duality, triumph intertwined with vulnerability, resonates deeply in a sleep-friendly historical narrative. It invites quiet reflection on the cycles of human endeavor, the fleeting yet enduring nature of cultural achievement, and the mysteries that remain unsolved despite centuries of study. As we leave the soaring pyramids of the Maya and the terraced mountains of the Inca, the mind naturally drifts toward contemplation of humanity as a whole, a species capable of astonishing ingenuity, creative expression, and adaptation, yet always subject to the forces of nature, time, and circumstance. The ruins of the Americas remind us that every civilization carries both a story of achievement and a story of disappearance, each leaving traces that invite curiosity, meditation, and quiet wonder. The transition toward the closing reflections of our documentary feels seamless. From specific civilizations across deserts, jungles, and mountains, to the overarching patterns of human history, resilience, and mystery that unite them across continents and millennia. As we drift away from the tangible ruins, the carved stones, the engineered waterways, and the precise alignments of ancient cities, we enter a realm of reflection, a space where the human imagination and historical memory converge. Across deserts, jungles, mountains, and plains, countless civilizations rose with ingenuity and ambition, leaving behind artifacts, monuments, and faint echoes of lives once lived. Some vanished suddenly, others gradually faded, and many were reclaimed by nature, leaving only fragments for modern observers to discover. Yet in every corner of the earth, the traces of these lost worlds resonate with a quiet persistence, as if whispering across the centuries, reminding us of both what humanity can create and what it can lose. The contrast between presence and absence, between monumental achievement and ephemeral existence, forms a recurring theme in the stories we have explored. Petra's carved cliffs, Angkor's waterbound temples, the towering pyramids of the Maya, and the terraced mountains of the Inca all demonstrate that humans have always sought permanence in impermanent circumstances. Each civilization sought to harmonize with its environment, to impose order on natural chaos, and to express belief, power, and knowledge through tangible forms. And yet, despite these efforts, the slow currents of history, climate change, societal upheaval, conquest, or simple decay, remind us that time does not grant immunity. The grandeur remains, but the context, the daily lives, the precise mechanisms of society often drift into mystery, leaving us with questions more than answers. There is something profoundly human in this interplay between understanding and uncertainty. The curiosity that drives archaeologists, historians, and explorers to study these civilizations mirrors the curiosity of the civilizations themselves. The impulse to solve practical challenges, to understand the cosmos, to leave a mark on the world, and to communicate across generations. Even when the solutions remain elusive, the act of investigation is itself a bridge across time. Every excavation, every deciphered inscription, every uncovered temple allows us to touch, however lightly, the minds and hearts of people who lived centuries or millennia before. The unknown becomes a companion rather than an obstacle, inviting meditation and quiet reflection rather than immediate resolution. The patterns across these lost civilizations reveal both diversity and universality. Geographical differences shaped methods of agriculture, architecture, and water management, yet the underlying impulses, the desire to sustain life, create beauty, and understand the cosmos, appear everywhere. Societies adapted ingeniously to deserts, jungles, mountains, and plains, yet their stories all converge on the tension between human aspiration and environmental limitation, between social complexity and fragility, between the known and the unknown. This universality offers a gentle reassurance. Even as we encounter mysteries, the processes of learning, adapting, and imagining connect us with those who came before across continents and centuries. The silence of these ancient sites enhances the meditative experience of reflection. When standing before a deserted plaza, a crumbling temple, or a reclaimed city, the absence of voices and movement allows the imagination to wander freely. One can picture bustling markets, ceremonial dances, royal decrees, and everyday routines, all superimposed upon the stillness of the present. The mind bridges centuries in quiet observation, constructing narratives from fragments, combining evidence with intuition. In this way, history becomes not only a series of facts, but also a deeply human, almost poetic meditation on existence, ingenuity, and impermanence. Another aspect of this reflection is the reminder that knowledge is both cumulative and incomplete. Modern science, archaeology, and anthropology have uncovered extraordinary details about these civilizations, yet there are limits. Some symbols remain undeciphered, some constructions unreplicated, and some societal dynamics only guessed at. These gaps are not failures, they are invitations. They invite viewers and listeners to dwell in uncertainty, to explore possibilities, and to appreciate the complexity of human history without demanding closure. There is a quiet joy in recognizing that some mysteries are meant to endure, that curiosity can coexist with ambiguity, and that contemplation can be its own reward. Equally striking is the persistence of cultural memory. Though empires may fall and cities may be reclaimed by earth and vegetation, the echoes of these civilizations often survive in living traditions, language, art, and folklore. Local communities maintain rituals, oral histories, and crafts that trace back to these ancient societies, preserving continuity across centuries. This resilience underscores a profound truth. While physical structures may crumble and political systems may collapse, human creativity and cultural expression endure. It also provides a bridge for modern observers, linking the past to the present in ways both tangible and intangible, practical and poetic. The interplay of human ambition, environmental constraint, and historical unpredictability encourages a reflective perspective on our own world. Observing the rise and fall of civilizations invites contemplation of the fragility and adaptability inherent in human societies. It reminds us that innovation, ingenuity, and creativity can achieve extraordinary feats, yet vigilance, care, and adaptability are required to maintain them across time. There is a subtle humility in this realization, a recognition that even the most brilliant societies are part of larger ecological and historical forces beyond any single individual or generation. This sense of humility deepens when considering the passage of time itself. Centuries and millennia stretch past in silent continuity, transforming human creations, erasing some details while preserving others. Civilization, in this view, is both ephemeral and eternal. ephemeral in its vulnerability to decay and collapse, eternal in the traces it leaves behind and the inspiration it provides.